Today we're also streaming on Twitch in addition to Discord. We're just going to be drawing animals today. This stream was previously only on Discord, so it's new to Twitch. But I thought I would just start sharing it here, because why not? So I'm just going to start talking about how you can use basic shapes to draw animals. And in most cases, you could just go straight out with 3 circles to start. You got your head, your rib cage, and your butt. In most cases, you can turn that into an animal. Obviously, the main differences are depending on the animal you're wanting to draw. Like if you wanted to draw a lizard of some kind, you could still have those 3 shapes. And I always advise having a reference ready when you're drawing things. I'm just drawing this by memory. But it's a good idea to just have a kind of basic idea of what the animal looks like. And you can kind of break it down into smaller shapes. Like here, I'm just doing a big tube for leg, and then circle, 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 and then enunciate the legs. And you'll notice I'm doing a big circle here. That's where we're going to have individual claws or fingers. And I think in this case, I'm going to turn it into a gecko. So for a gecko, they usually have very big paw pads here. I don't remember exactly how many fingers they have per se, but you can come in and add the fingers if you have a bigger circle to kind of get the basic shape about where you're going to want that. Obviously very stylized, but you have a little friend here. You'll notice I'm drawing kind of like basic sticks and circles to kind of get your idea, the basic idea of here. And sometimes it helps to draw the shapes even if you can't really see them. Let me just use no, not the magic wand, a lasso tool. Just going to put my lasso tool on the circle joint I made and use that as a center fork to turn it around. That looks a little better, but I don't think I quite like it. I'm not sure if it's a good gecko leg per se. But I don't have a picture of a gecko in front of me, so it's hard to say. Kind of looks like a guy in a gecko suit that's walking on all fours, honestly. Which is totally possible, could happen. Probably where I'm going wrong here is the joint is likely facing the opposite direction. So I am just going to go ahead and erase that. And this, although I'm not sure if it's quite right either, also I think a little better of a gecko. Okay, so like I said, 3 circles are pretty good for making most animals. You know, even something small like a hedgehog, you probably wouldn't see the inner body things, but if you're just stylizing it cartoon-wise, you could still do a couple of other little circles for the ears, and then maybe do little stubby things for the legs, and then just kind of draw some spikes, and you get a basic hedgehog. Obviously I can go into a fuller drawing and make it look much more nicer and realistic, but these are just simple shapes right now. It's fun to kind of play with it, get the basic idea. If you wanted to draw a rabbit per se, you could still get those 3 shapes here: ribs, chest, head. A rabbit might have 2 big kind of oval shapes for its head, and then I would do kind of like a rectangular thing here, a little circle for the eye, and then I'm just going to have this one sitting down to make it easier. But you typically want to put the tails like right at the end of their what you would imagine the spine would be. In this case, an animal's spine would be kind of like this, so you'd have a fuzzy bunny tail right at the end here. Whoop, ba-doop. So I kind of imagine the hip of the animal being here, and the leg kind of connecting here as it's folded up. Then you have kind of like a shoulder blade here, and you can add another circle there for the elbow, and another circle here for the wrist. Kind of finalize it out with a little paw there. And then can add some whiskers, a little bit of a face and a nose, and you get bunny, pretty obviously. Bird, you can just kind of get basic circle there for the head, but I usually kind of think of a long oval for its body as opposed to just things. So if you're getting kind of more of an owl type of bird, you might have it be kind of beneath the owl. But if you're thinking of something more like a sparrow or a robin or something, you can probably get a slightly longer facing this way. And then you can draw once again those backward knees for the legs. Kind of big rectangular shape to make a tail. And then most birds will kind of have a triangular shape for a beak. The feet are always the most difficult part, right? So again, you can do that big kind of circular shape and then just kind of like use the overall shape to pull out your feetsies. Birds will usually have an extra talon facing the opposite way so they could grip around branches. Can make those legs a little less spindly, but this is a smaller bird, so probably won't have too big of a thing. And you can either have do kind of like a big, I'm not even sure what kind of shape that is, but probably easier to stick with oval and then another oval around it to kind of get the folded wing effect. Or alternatively, you could try to have a bird flying thing, which you can still get those two oval things, but then you have to keep in mind that you have to break it apart a little bit for the feathers. Maybe I'll just darken that eye a little bit. Draw a little line to show the opening of the beak. Not all birds have a nostril, but some do. And then there's a second layer of feathers, usually right among I don't remember the scientific name for them, but there's usually these are the feathers that are most likely to fall out, and the inner feathers are the ones that just kind of stick there. Okay, next. So ferrets have that super long, lengthy body, so their butts will probably be way longer. Then you can just kind of overlap it slightly with their rib cage. Make that a little lower. The head. Which, with the ferrets, you want to make sure that everything is kind of long and lanky. Tail coming off the tailbone, which is actually much lower on the ferret. And then you can do a couple of circles for its tail. Get that hip bone in. Draw an oval shape for the leg and an oval shape for the foot. We have shoulder here, kind of shape here. Ooh, that foot is much higher up than that one. Whoopsie. Let's just fix that real quick. It's okay to make mistakes. You can always fix them. Erase them when you're using a regular pen and pencil, or delete them when you're drawing on a computer. Everybody makes mistakes. And I'll just kind of get the basic shapes of the back legs in. No. Not quite finished, Kelsey. Okay. So, kind of roundish spot for the snout. You have big circular things for the ears. And just gonna do a big circle there for their kind of mask, like hollows of their eyes, and then add a smaller thing in the center. And then I'll just draw a little round shape for its nose. And you got a ferret. Somewhat. Just gonna bring that down a little. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of how I did its legs, but gotta practice at these things to get good at them. I know there's some people that can start to draw and be really good at it, but their skills don't stay if they don't keep at it. Okay, I said long and lengthy, but this torso is actually much shorter than what I think would be good for a ferret, so I'm just gonna go ahead and drag that out with the lasso tool and just add a couple of extra lines here. Yeah, that's better. So squirrels, kind of similar shape to the ferret. You got your chest, you got your butt. I think that butt's too far away on this little guy. Squirrels are also going to have a very big tail, which almost have a mind of their own, it seems like sometimes. Just going to make it very big and poofy look, because their tails are almost about the same size as their bodies, honestly. Shoulder, back of the elbow. Should make sure that that's on the same level as that. So this leg might be a little too short. Squirrels tend to have much longer paws in the back, so that might help get a little undercarriage here going. Kind of helps to think about what you want your animal doing when you're drawing them, because it's going to differ, of course, based off of their movement. That's kind of squirrel-like. And if I wanted to draw a squirrel from facing forward, you're still going to have those shapes, like these are all in profile, but they're going to all kind of intersect each other. Like here are the back legs, which I started drawing from the back because it makes it look a little better if you're coming in from the rear forward. On that same note, I probably should have drawn the tail first, huh? Big old shape. Tail. Back legs. Front legs. Squirrels have almost human-like paws, so you can kind of give them a little bit of a point at the end, but the bending is still going to exist there. I feel like this is a little harder to see in just a one color, so I'm going to go in with an even darker color and just come over again with my lines. So I'll get my front torso in here and the shoulders. Then about where the elbow comes and its little pawsies. And this is better for when you're just cleaning up the image. Like if you were drawing with this in pencil, you could use a blue line pencil or just a colored pencil for the initial rough drawing, and then come in with a pen, marker, and redraw your lines without the underdrawings and erase them. So I think what I did wrong here is I made these eyes too small. Okay. Circles. And then you can come in with the tail and kind of fluff it up a little. You'll notice when I erase the lines, you kind of get more of a squirrely shape. And it looks a little bit more clearer, right? But let's get back to rough drawings. I will draw a fox. So, foxes are slightly more pointier than what you have with wolves or coyotes. If you're thinking of drawing a fox, it's a good idea to think of combination cat plus wolf. Gonna have a long nose. Going to draw the back leg, so this one is kind of sitting down in this drawing. And I imagine the tail is the spine is like right there, so so the tail is going to come out from back there. Get a bit of a tuber face, and you can add texture to the fur a little bit as you're coming in to give it a little bit more of a fluffy look. A square nose. You can add kind of a bit of a triangular shapes to the side of the head, and you get fox. Obviously it might differ according to the fox that you're drawing, but this is kind of like basic fox. If you want to draw a wolf, you're going to go much more thicker, because they're a little less spindly and small. So I'm going to start by making the wolf head even a little bigger. Same rib cage, and then butt. Now I'm going to draw a couple of circles for its back leg, so it could be for its hips, and then circle, circle, circle for paw, circle for paw, and tail. Whole lot less fluff than the tail, than the fox obviously, but still there's some fluff there. Get its front legs in there. Like that. Okay, fix. So they're gonna have more of a pectoral shape before their legs come down. Still gonna have those little pawsies here. And instead of a more pointed look with a wolf, it's gonna be almost like a squarish jaw. That is under thing, draw the nose there. I mean, these guys, it all depends on the prey they hunt down. Like with wolves, they're just more likely to chase down deer and stuff, or the foxes are going to be after smaller things like rabbits and mice and stuff like that. So you're still going to have ears, but they're going to be a little bit more squared off. You want thick power muscle when you're drawing these guys, no matter how cute you think that they are. And they can also have fluff on the side of their heads, but it's not as pronounced. Let's add a little bit of a nozzle there. Like, you see this kind of ended up more as a point. This is kind of like more of a rectangle overall. Still not sure if this looks like a wolf or a guy with a wolf body. Let's erase some of these lines to give them kind of a more rounder face. What did I do wrong? I think the ears need to be more on top of its head. You get the triangular shape, and right at the top of that shape you have your ears. I'm also slightly referencing Drawing Wildlife from J.C. Amberlin. And she says in her book that the wolf looks like a large sled dog, but with bigger feet and narrow chest. Long legs carry the canine effortlessly over miles of wilderness in search of food. Study large dogs to gain insight into wolf anatomy and behavior. Part of the big dog look is achieved by making its head smaller in relation to its body. Okay, so right there, I could fix that by just shrinking its head down some. Yeah, already it's looking more wolf-like. I just have a bad habit of making small heads. And then we have our third buddy of this canine trio, which is my favorite to draw, is the coyote. Because I am a coyote. Or I should say I love them. Coyotes are kind of like a mixture of those two. I think they can have bigger head and the same sharper features. Rib cage, butt, hip, knee joint, pawsies, and then tail. Don't make it wag. Wagging tails is much less of a wild animal type of thing. More of a domesticated dog kind of thing. Pectorals coming out with the legs. So, smaller, not quite as small as a fox though. I think I did this head a little too high up, so I'm going to bring that down. And then their ears are rounded but also pointy. Forgive me, I keep on forgetting to zoom in. So yeah, as you can see, definitely a combination between the two. Like this one you can almost see as a wolf pup, but slight differences. Next, let's draw a cat. So, got my chest, got my butt. Gonna have this cat have its tail pointed up and a hello there kind of look. If it's looking at you and aren't I so smug face. Cats aren't wildlife, so of course I don't have a reference of that in my book. I do have one on my lock screen though. Cats have those hips too, and the backwards knee. I'm gonna have this one have their paw out for fun. Like, I demand food. I will swat at you if I'm not given food. Always a mistake to draw the feet without visualizing the ground, because the legs aren't going to look grounded if you don't do that. And I'm going to adjust this tail a little bit more. Cat tails can be just as long as their body, depending on the breed. Like if you have a Manx cat, they're going to have just a stump, not the full thing, but you definitely want to think about the breed of cat that you're drawing, if it matters. because the body type will differ, but this is pretty good basic cat. Still have a decent amount of space and 15 minutes to go. So if I don't have any requests from the chat, I'll just go ahead and draw another animal. Deer have itty bitty heads and gold chests, so it's good to think about that. They also have really big ears that are kind of like oval shaped, that you can actually kind of draw a little circle as a base, which kind of gives it a more fuller look. This deer's head is going to be turned in like that awkwardly, because I was just making stuff up when I started drawing this. Graceful things that leap in front of cars to draw the line for the eyes, so they're on the same level. Won't necessarily have a nose shape per se, so I just draw nostrils there. And then you can have an oval for the tail. Now we move on to the legs. They have big old circles for the hips, and then the backwards knee, as famous as from many of a four-legged being. Back leg, and you're also going to have a little bit of an underside beneath the ankle here before it breaks into the hoof. And most deers have cloven hooves, so I'll just draw a quick line there and get the belly in, and then I'll just have this deer be kind of lifting its leg like it's ready to race off, because it suddenly turned its head, obviously. I think that one is a little too close to the back. I'll just make sure I get my shoulder shape in there. And then that gets kind of like a backwards shape too. Come on down, make sure that's level. Very similar to drawing a horse. I already did a whole video about drawing ponies, so if you want me to draw another one of those, I suggest you look at that video. Or pay me. I take commissions. Second back leg. Of keeping the shapes in mind, I might have this one be also restless and ready to take off. Alright, and I might as well add antlers to this guy. You can do by mark about where the start of the antlers is going to be, and then good idea is just to rough the shape in. Make sure it's somewhat symmetrical. Because male deer use their antlers to fight. And then just go over the lines again to give them more dimension. And there you have a deer. One thing that's probably easiest to draw is like a snake, because all you really need to do is have that head shape there, and then just draw one line there, and then have another line that is about parallel to it, but make sure that it gets wider as it gets closer to the head, so it all comes out to be the same shape as the head. And you might add an extra thing depending on the snake to give it a little bit more of a nozzle. And you can pop out a little bit of fourth tongue so it can smell. And then depending on the snake, you can make details to its head or not. This picture is probably if the snake was like on a glass table that you were looking up underneath it from, but that's fine. Also, some snakes will probably have a bit of an underside to them, so you could... I'm just having it where the body is intersecting, so it might come up and around here, or it might not even show up at all from the way I drew it, honestly. And then you can draw the little separator lines. And that's a pretty simple snake right there. Shrink it down. A domestic dog. Dogs can be like all sorts of sizes and shapes too. Like, let's say I'm drawing a terrier, so I'll give it a bit of a long snoot and folded over ears. A little bit of a smiley face. And I'm going to make this one a little short-legged. You want to think about the proportions a little bit while you're drawing them, because the ankle things are still going to be present in each animal. Let's go on a walkies. Ever so fun. Draw some lines there to make it wagging its tail. After I draw that initial shape, I can just add a bunch of fur to make it a very fluffy dog. Terriers especially have a little bit of scruff underneath their chin, and people will usually trim their hair up on the front there. And there, a dog. Well, I said that unless I got a lot of activity from the chat, I'd probably end it here first hour, but I guess what I can do is I can just go ahead and do one more animal for down here, and then I'll end it for today. Why don't we do a platypus? So they are marsupials. You'll get the big old butt kind of low to the ground. And platypuses have a longer beak in addition to their beaver tail. Short little legs. I am definitely not going by a reference, so can't tell you how accurate this is. And then you have Perry the platypus. Okay, I think I'll end the stream there. Thank you for sitting through this. I hope you have a delightfully awkward day. And that'll be it for today.